Welcome to your Thursday edition of Rates and Barrels. I am your host today, Eno Sarris. I will bumble and stumble my way through this while Derek needs a day. And Trevor May is here to help me through that process. Thank you for coming on, Trevor.
Of course, anytime you need me, I'm here to support. So I talk as much as you want,
Yeah, you please talk some more. But we have an interesting show today. We've got some news, some injury news in Houston. A player from Korea that is making some noise about wanting to be posted. A major leaguer using one of Trevor May's preparation techniques, and then we'll go through some really important rookies for the stretch run of the playoffs. Before talking about September and bullpens for contenders. There's a lot going on there. But I guess at the top of the sheet is Spencer Arrighetti has some elbow inflammation, and he is off to the IL. Now, I mean, with Luis Garcia back and Christian Javier back, I think that the Astros, can field a starting rotation just by using the guys they have at their disposal right now. But it does bring to mind, I thought Arrighetti had a chance to join the top three and be part of the playoff rotation. He might still have that chance if this is a minor issue. But who's your third starter for the Astros? You got Framber, Mercurial Fromber. You've got Hunter Brown, who has ascended to top 20 at least status among pitchers in the big leagues. So you've got a good one too. But between Javier, Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers, you could throw a healthy Arrighetti in there. Who would have been your third starter for the Astros in a playoff rotation?
Oh, that's interesting. Because none of them have really been. I'm leaning towards McCullers, just because he's been healthy longest. I mean, maybe the most predictable of the bunch, but this could be a situation where they're, even in the playoffs, you only kind of roll with or have any sort of leash for the guys you're supremely confident in, the Zach Wheelers of the world. Like, those guys are the ones that are going to be able to stumble a little bit at the beginning and keep going. So no matter who it is, they're going to have a 1-inch lease in the bullpens coming in.
Yeah.
First sign of trouble. So if that's the assumption, thinking that, you have your two front, well, at least you have Framber, who has a lot of experience throwing in those games and can settle himself down and get deep. And then how good Hunter Brown's been for 2 years. Like, if you're going to think about those two guys that way, then you're okay with whoever it is. So maybe it's like, Lance starts and then Luis is the first out, or Christian Javier is the first out, or we switch any of those guys up. So I'm assuming that would be the way it is. Whoever's pitching the best, probably their last two starts or something, will probably end up get the.
Yeah, it might be something as small as that. Yeah. I might play some games with the off day if the off day is available to me. Maybe I use one of Fromber or Hunter in game one, and then give a nice butt pat to Christian Javier and say, "Hey, you're the game 2 starter," and then wink at your pitching coach because you give him 3 outs. But and then you get the off day to maybe get the bullpen healthy again. I think one thing that's interesting to me is just that Javier, McCullers, Arrighetti, it's a lot of poor command. And I don't know, like, is that easier to spot? Like, if you're think about this as the manager, you throw one of those guys out there. If he walks 2 guys, you're like, okay, he just doesn't have the command today, right? And then maybe that's easier because Luis Garcia has the opposite problem where he's throwing 91, but the command looks okay. Which one would you rather have? I think I might rather throw the guy that I think the stuff is a little bit better, and if the command's not there, I can take him out, because I feel like that'll just manifest with walks first. If I throw Luis Garcia out there, it could be like 2 home runs in a row. Like, oops.
Yeah.
Made the wrong
possibly. I think it would have to be pretty glaring to make a decision like that. Because I mean, you can't just like assume homer's going to happen, but like, but you're right. If you want to avoid, especially if their command's not impeccable, right? So like the thing is, guys with better stuff can get away with not having great command. Guys with not as good stuff can't. So, like, God forbid, Luis Garcia isn't absolutely dialed in, which it's not. That's not like it's his MO. It's not like he's been a command guy. He was a power guy before he was hurt. So, like, this could just be, you know, he's had one start. He just had pretty good command in that one start. But I'm also noticing like the downtime for a lot of these guys with Tommy John has been longer. Bieber, like these guys aren't coming back in 10 months. They're not doing a Rich Hill. They're like giving it the full 16, 18, and they're coming back and their command's much, much better right away. A lot of guys coming back.
The longer rehab stints.
Striking out 8 guys, walking nobody in the first guy back, when usually it used to be like, if you get 4 punchies, 4 walks, and 4 2/3 innings, you're like, nice. That was pretty good.
Back.
Oh, maybe. They do have a lot of options though. I mean, none of them are really pushing themselves in the front, but like they can cover innings if they need to, and that's kind of what they're going to need to do based on how their rotation's been set up all year, anyways. With kind of the last 3 guys just flip flopping and spinning around. Yeah. So it's like, what else is new? You know, hopefully you're taking a 2-0 lead in that situation. I think that's probably what the big fingers crossed is.
I'm not sure how far into the postseason I will pick them to go, just because this pitching staff seems a little bit thin. I mean, the guys were depending on Javier Garcia coming back from injury. Arrighetti, if he comes, he's coming back from injury. McCullers is always coming back from injury. And then the bullpen has kind of suffered. I don't know what Hader's timetable is like. But if he's not back in time for the first series, you're talking about like 2 relievers that I really trust in the postseason. So it would be one of those things where Luis Garcia is coming out of the pen, McCullers is coming out of the pen, and you're just trying to patch it together, despite having, I think, one of the best 1-2s in the maybe in the playoffs. They still have kind of a paper thin pitching staff in some ways. So I that'll be interesting to kind of think about when it comes to prognostication time. This is a little bit out of left field for me, but I guess the posting process is such that it kind of needs to happen before December. And so there's also this really interesting, I think, thing culturally in Japan and Korea with posting, where like Moon Song, the third baseman in Korea, he's under contract. And it was a little bit like Roki Sasaki was under contract. A lot of these guys, they're under contract, but there's sort of this thing that if the player starts making noise about wanting to be posted, they can put enough pressure on their organization to do what they want. So I think this is at least the beginning of that process where like a potential agent, or maybe it is his agent, is out there talking about how Sung Moon Song would be a great player in America. And then there's this rumor he wants to be posted. This is exactly how the Roki Sasaki stuff started. With Sasaki, though, it kind of took a year. He like made this noise and then he was posted the next year. So I guess there's always the chance that Sung Moon Song says he wants to be posted now this year and he gets posted next year. He is a late bloomer, so he's 29, 30. So if they waited a year to be 30, so maybe he has a little bit more urgency where he really wants to come over now. Last 2 seasons have been pretty good. We don't have major league approximations for this year, but for last year, he would have been a 293, 365, 435 slash line third baseman with sort of 2020 type power and speed, according to Clay Davenport's projections. That's a little bit like a Michael Garcia, maybe. Maybe a little bit lighter on the power than that 20. Maybe like an Alec Bohm with better defense and speed. If I say it that way, I think that the Giants would be interested, maybe at second base. He's a lefty, so platoon with Schmidt or something. The A's, I mean, this is going to be a cheaper situation. This is not, I don't think, going to be even a Ha-Seong Kim contract. So they think the A's could be an interesting dark horse here. Seattle will be losing 2 infielders. Toronto at third base could be interested. But a little side note for this: Cody Ponce just set the KBO strikeout record with 228. And Cody Ponce was last seen, with like a 6+ ERA here in America. you know, what do MLB players think? Because Cody Ponce went to Japan and was in NPB for a little bit, and he was okay, and then he had a bad year, and then he went to Korea. Like, what do you remember of players, you know, talking of Korea and like going and coming back? Like, do people think that's a last chance thing? What do they think of what do they think of Korea versus Japan? I mean, Japan seems like maybe like, oh, you'll be back in a year. Like, what do people say to each other? Like, if I was saying, hey, Trevor, I'm off to Japan or Korea, like, you say, sorry, dude.
No, no, I think it's seen as an alternative to the minors. At the end of the day, like it really is. It's
Like,
a
you're like
lot
a
of
27, 28-year-old, just like, I don't want to go back to the minors.
well, that and like they're a 4A type guy. They're bouncing up and down, and they don't feel like they have a lot of like not goodwill, but like they're very high on anyone's. They don't feel established at all with any organization. They bounced around a couple times, and this is an option. I remember, and I don't believe he and ultimately ended up going because he ended up sticking with Colorado for a while. But Tyler Kinley was talking about it when I was with him in 2017 in Minnesota, and he was just like trying to actively get a. I believe it was Japan, but he also was looking at Korea as well because in the hierarchy of things, Japan is the better baseball. They pay better.
And there's more money there, yeah.
There's it's about double what it would be in Korea for the most part, though Korea is much more than the minors. So it's like, you know, and I think that the opinion for organizations and scouts now is that Korea is a more of a if you go and have really good numbers there, they're going to give you more of a chance. I don't quite remember. I think Fetty went to Korea, correct?
Yep, Fetty went to Korea.
And he cleaned some stuff up. Like
I think Merrill Kelly came back from Korea.
Merrill Kelly too. So like usually though, the guys come back from Japan have better success in the big leagues because it's just the competition's better. It's closer to the major leagues. A lot of the types of hitters, like the wider range of talent, power guys versus contact guys, like there's more of that. In Korea, it's a lot of there's not a huge discrepancy. There's just you're there either like singles or homers.
A power hitter over there, you know.
Yeah, there's very little like it's everyone. It's high strikeout home run guys, or it's never strikeout like bunt try to run guy. Like there's nothing really in between. Like complete players. So like you see high strikeout numbers like Ponce did, and like guys are going over there and doing crazy stuff. So the way we think about it though is these guys. A lot of times, some of them get approached, right? Because the leagues of the scouts over there know this guy's pretty good. He throws hard or whatever, and he just isn't going to get. We kind of see the writing on the wall. He probably isn't going to get the attention that he needs, and maybe we see something we can make him a little bit better, and we can get him pretty cheap because he will be better than some of the stuff we have. Like it's like
give him a full year chance.
Really. Yeah, we'll give him a 2 year. Like in Korea, it'll be like we'll give you 2 year 1.5, which is just 2 years of minimum wage here in the big leagues. But if you pitch well there, then you might play a big league. Yeah, you get to play. Yeah. You're kind of a stud. Like they're like you're one of our higher paid players now. Right. You're from America. You're the American, so you're a little bit of a novelty as well. And they want you, which is a big part of it. And then you might be able to parlay that into a big league deal like Fetty did, or Merrill Kelly did.
And if you are that type of person, it's like I get to know another culture and like get to
and then there's a lot of guys who are like, I just want to live in Japan. I just want to live. Like the worst part about this, I could suck, but like at least I get to go experience it. You know, Drew Rosinski came over from Korea, and he said it was one of the best experiences of his life. And he was another guy who was like, I don't know if I'm going to get another opportunity in the big leagues if I don't do this. And so there's a development thing too. So I think the hierarchy though is guys they try Japan first, and then they'll go to Korea. Sometimes Korea is the only option. They read the writing on the wall there, and they just try to go play well. But at the end of the day, it's to try to develop and then get some stats, some good longevity, stay healthy, to then prove that you're good enough again. And then sometimes you kind of are able to launder your reputation in the big leagues over there for a bit and come back and kind of clean slate it. Another example that a guy I played with, Michael Tonkin. He just was AAA. No one would give him a chance. He went over there and then he got big league deals, and then he kept getting picked up and put on the big league team over and over again for a couple more years. Yeah. So that was smart. That was really smart on his in his camp. They
help make people right. You differently. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that one.
So that is how guys think about it. And to be honest, most of us are like, hey man, good for you. Like this means you probably going to hang around for a lot longer than you would have otherwise. And I think it's a really smart move. So I think we actually think like good for you. And there's like half the guys on the team are like, I wish I could do that. Like they're not even getting the attention. So it's a good thing. It's definitely a positive thing. It's a second chance for a lot of guys, but also it's an opportunity to make a little bit more money as you develop, because you still have a little bit more success in those leagues generally as you're developing than you would in the big leagues.
Another thing about Cade Povich, I think, when just sort of reading between the lines, I think this goes to your point about like sort of making people think of you differently. I think people thought he didn't necessarily have enough stuff to be a starter, so he was being used as a reliever. And then he goes to Korea and he shows real great success. Like he just broke the strikeout record in Korea as a starter. Has a 1.7 ERA. And so
now 18 one game. Look at that. That's crazy.
Jesus. And so he can maybe now he's like, don't bring me into camp as a reliever. Like this is not, I have a wide arsenal. I'm like more of a wide arsenal with command guy than I am like a guy who has big stuff and is going to strike guys out as a reliever. So bring me in as your 5th or 6th starter. So I'm really interested to see if that's like 5th starter with the major league deal, or
I bet you he does. I guarantee. Actually, I almost guarantee it that a team like the A's
again, yeah,
would go, because he's got some experience. He's a little bit of an older guy, and he may have like a lot of times they go and like guys find a pitch. Like they're just like they learn a different kind of breaking ball, and that becomes their thing, and then they keep their arsenal around it, and then they work around that pitch. Like that is projectable. You as a scout, you can be like, oh, they have a new thing they didn't have. Like, and it's maybe not going to be as successful, but it still probably will be. But it'll be like I could see like 5th starter for the maybe not with Kyle Bloom coming on. Like maybe like the Angels 5th starter.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
like,
the A's
like
are pretty desperate for pitching.
I mean, everyone really is, especially in the off season. So it's like,
yeah,
it's real. I think it's pretty not. I wouldn't say easy, but there are a lot of 5th spots open because he's going to be. He's still going to be like it's going to be like a 2-year, $6 million or 2-year, $8 million deal type thing.
Yeah, it's a better platform. So I found the guy, Josh Lindblom. So
yeah,
he's in the middle of a better platform year than Lindblom had, because Lindblom had like like a 24% strikeout rate and a 2.50 ERA. And what we're talking about with Ponce is a 36% strikeout rate and a 1.76 ERA. A 36% strikeout rate over 163 innings. Like, yeah, I think you're right. He's going to get a major league deal. And the downside is like, so what if we sign Josh Lindblom? What if it is Lindblom again? Lindblom got 3 years and $9 million. Like most organizations, even the A's could handle getting that one wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then I think Merrill Kelly came over. What's the upside? So Merrill Kelly comes back from KBO. I want to know his contract then. His contract was what is it?
I don't know.
Jeez. Well, if the deal is like 2 and 6 or something, like you're saying, and I think
and that's entirely doable by every team.
There's Lindblom on one side and you have Kelly on the other side. Like
if you get Pirates Kelly, would do that.
Yeah, if you get Kelly, you're just like super happy about it. So
I mean, I would even say because Fetty, like I know he is not now, but like even just that first year, his was really cheap. And he had a really good first year, even though it was just the White Sox, and then he went over but he was okay. Like that was, I still think he made his money, even though he is, more or less fallen right back to Nationals version of Fetty. Like I still think that 1 year of his production was worth it. So it's one of those like can't really miss deals. And I mean the A's signed Fujinami, right? Like they'll take chances. Like he just had a big fastball and that's about it, right? So I just think it's a no-brainer, especially if it's less than $10 million, which they tend to be.
Yeah, so that's a kind of a fun little story. So maybe we'll have 2 guys coming over from the KBO, and like the Hae-Seong Kim signing for the Dodgers, he kind of is playing to about where he was projected to play, and it may seem to some like that's a non-factor, but he's been important to the Dodgers. They have him under team control. And he's been a utility guy from them. And he's like one of the guys, he's basically the guy who came up as one of the extra guys for September. So, he's basically like a 26th, 27th man guy for pretty cheap, which is important for the Dodgers. I was estimating that if you wanted to put together a 95 win team just in free agency, you'd have like a $750 million payroll. So every team needs to like find guys that outperform and are a little bit cheaper. Yeah. So I think I think a lot of teams will be interested. And I think for fantasy purposes, this is like a deeper league situation. But if he becomes he's a lefty, if he becomes even just a lefty 2/3 starter at third base for somebody, it looks like the batting average should be pretty high. And I could see him, being like a 10-20, 15-20 type guy with a 280 average. Like that could be pretty useful in a lot of leagues. So I've got that name circled. Speaking of circling names, the Baltimore Orioles came to town recently, and I circled them as someone I had to go see. Talked to Trevor Rogers. He said that he was collapsing on his front side, when he lost his velo. So with the Marlins, when he lost his velo, he was collapsing on his front side. So we talked about some drills about just sort of and cues about slamming that front foot down and like really trying to be aggressive and firm with that front foot. And he said that a lot of that was how he got his velo back. The second thing he said was the sweeper is important for him because, people will be sitting on his changeup sometimes. And he said when he faced the Astros, they just didn't swing anything down because they assumed it would be the changeup. And what he did was he threw the sweeper. He saw them sitting and not swinging, spitting on his changeup. He threw the sweeper, which was easier because it was on plane. It was actually easier to get it in the bottom of the zone, in the strike zone. So he would throw his sweeper. They would think it's the changeup, and they wouldn't swing at it, and it would stay. Like the sweeper stays high, so it would like stay on plane and end up in the zone. So you get some called strikes there. So that's sort of tunneling-ish. And now there's like a little internet debate about whether or not we can really put our hands on tunneling, in terms of analytics. But I wanted to ask you before we get to an interesting note about Cade Povich, like, does that ring true to you that you would have two secondaries who'd play off each other in the same way that I think people traditionally think of tunneling as fastball slider, look the same, but tunneling can also be like, oh, they're sitting on one secondary, and so I'm going to do something else with a different secondary.
Yeah, I mean that the mechanics still works exactly the same way. It's just about what pitch are they expecting, and then what pitch breaks off. What's it look like as it's coming to you, and then what pitch does it end up being? So like you can tunnel.
You see the gyro and the sweeper, so sometimes you'd play them off each other, right?
Yeah. Especially if I was giving someone really gyro heavy. The thing is, one was focused mostly on depth, and one was focused mostly on sweep. So like, if they look the same, they're going to end up in different places. And in the way that I one of the things I knew about guys too, in terms of swing and miss, was not everyone, when you chase is breaking balls like a righty. If a righty on righty chases out of the zone, they don't always, that doesn't just mean off the plate. Like sometimes they don't chase off the plate ever. They only chase down. So the depth one is the better one. They see balls moving off the plate better for some reason, but they don't see depth. And it was usually one or the other, or then there would be guys who were true free swingers who would swing at both. And so you had both options in your pocket. I love knowing that both breaking balls were available, but most of the time there was only one that was a better option. And then it comes down to confidence. So like that makes a ton of sense to me. If you know how your ball moves, you can then intuit how that tunnel will work. Like what will be the action, and what type of swing and miss? Will they be over it, or will they run out of barrel? Like, will they just not be able to reach it? And that was actually a big thing. That realization was a big thing that actually helped me so much in 2023 was, and how to use the sweeper effectively and who to use it. It wasn't just like, oh, there's two strikes, let's go for it. But I threw way more gyros. It had barely any swing and miss. It was actually like a 5% whiff rate. It was ridiculous. But
that was a fastball for you, almost like a
but guys weren't hitting it hard, and they knew the sweepers in the back pocket, and they were expecting changeups a lot more as the power pitch. So like it became just kind of throw it over for a strike, get it, and I commanded it pretty well, and guys would just roll it over all the time or take it, and then they saw that breaking ball, and then the sweeper came like, dang it, that was a different one. That was the swing and miss one. So it's like that's how it played out that year. But if you know that and you make decisions like that, then yeah, that could work.
Yeah. So I think one thing is though that those decisions that you're making, um, they depend on some guesswork from the hitter and you guessing that what they're guessing correctly. Like it's really hard to put your hands around it analytically, you know.
Mhm.
I did just see a piece of research about catchers that suggested that game calling was worth as much as their framing value. And it pointed to some guys like Jake Rogers being really good at it, and then Ryan Jeffers not being so great at it. And I wonder if what you're
I know Jeffers. I know Jeffers pretty well. Yeah. Yeah.
but I wonder if like what you're capturing there is um a lot of these approaches are like, hey, we're going to isolate what we know. You know, we're going to isolate this. We know this. We know this. We know this. We know this. And then this missing thing, that must be game calling.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like we do that with tunneling. I also saw in that same piece of research, they were saying that the third time through the order penalty is mostly from the top of the lineup getting better at seeing shapes and like getting better against a pitcher the third time through, and the bottom of the lineup doesn't. And they posited to some extent that the top of the line is better at guessing because they've seen what you've seen. They've seen what you're throwing, right? And so they're playing that mind game with you. So again, a lot of these constructs are that we isolate all the things we can isolate, and then we think the thing that's missing is this one thing. But I think the thing that's missing often is this interplay of minds of people being like, oh, I think he's going to, but if I think he's going to do, he might think I think he's going to do this, then he's going to think not to do this, and then maybe I think maybe I should do what I don't think he's going to do.
Yeah. You have to know how intelligent the guy is too. It's funny. Joey Votto's talked about how sometimes he would get in that mode because he was so cerebral with it and like trusting his thing and always making adjustments that he would.
And then the dude is just like, my fastball's my best pitch. I'm gonna throw it.
Yeah, the guy's out there like he put it down. So I'm gonna do it. There's a lot of guys who just like see ball, throw ball, keep it simple. Stupid is a very common euphemism by old school pitching coaches, and guys run with that, especially if they have the opinion that they're not the brightest person. And that is one funny thing about pitchers. Most of them are like, I'm not very smart, man. Like I know you're trying to help me, but like
don't tell me all the reasons.
Just
put the sign down, dude.
I'm not going to be able to do what you're doing. Like when I would talk to him, so I'd be like, "What's a dumb person's version of what I'm talking about?" Sometimes, but that was because they said it, not because I was like, I'm trying to assume everyone can be or go as in depth as me, but like that's just not the case. And sometimes that serves you, sometimes it doesn't. That is basically baseball right there.
Yeah. That's why I love those Greinke Konerko at bats, because I feel like those guys were both really cerebral and they're just playing with each other. You know,
Greinke's fascinating because he would have games where he was just out there playing 5D chess, and there was other days where he's just like, whatever.
I'm just gonna throw my power change over.
I just feel like he got bored. I think that like if he did the same thing too much, he's like, I'm bored. Let's completely change how we think about pitching for a while. It's fun.
Oh my God, I was so obsessed. He went in against the Giants, and at the time the Giants weren't swinging at anything. And so he threw a bunch of power changeups at the lefties, at their bodies, like basically front door power changeups. And there's guys who can pull that off. Obviously, Greinke's one of them. Early Paddock was one. Like there's the guys with a great feel. I don't know. Did you throw up front door changeups?
Not on purpose, but I did throw a lot of them. They were maybe I was trying to go down middle or something, and they would just like stay. But I did get a lot of guys buckled. Lots of guys buckled.
Okay, so inside changeups, you did a little bit on lefties. Yeah. Well, he was throwing them. He threw one. He threw them high, dude. He threw
like sinkers. He threw a changeup 2 miles an hour slower than his fastball, or the same sometimes.
I mean, I guess it was basically front door sinkers.
It's kind of like Jason Adam uses his like a sinker a lot. Like sometimes he's just like, it's 91, 92 today. I guess it's a sinker.
Yeah. But he threw one that I was like, what? He threw one basically at Lamont Wade Jr.'s face, and Lamont Wade Jr. of course is like, and then
he's a big like he's got a great idea of the zone. So like he's and it just there. He's so
just popped right into the zone, and Wade was so pissed.
Yeah, that's a perfect guy to throw that to.
Well, speaking of preparation for games and stuff, I did talk to Cade Povich too. He talked about he moved to the kick change has been big for him. He said the cutter in the minors, worked for him, but it wasn't working in the big leagues. Maybe he'll bring it back. But we talked a little bit about the way that you used to prepare, and I guess this came up on one of the casts that you did, the ESPN cast that you did. Povich saw it, and I think he ran with it. So let's take a look. This is how you used to prepare for games. On the right is sort of is like an overall, like, this is where my slider goes and where I want to throw it today with it's like error bands, what you're seeing. It's like, it's the 9 pocket idea, but it's also like, if I miss on the inside one, I want to miss up and out, right? It's like
Exactly.
It's showing miss areas too, right?
It's like plan A, plan 1A, and plan 1B. If I'm gonna miss, it's gonna move towards the outside of the zone, as opposed to in, and try to make those decisions. And then this would very rarely change much, but like see how big the slider is. That's what maybe this team chases off and down more than other teams, and teams tend to kind of coalesce. They tend to all kind of start doing the same type of thing. They look,
so it's not just the slider's circle is big because your command of it was bad. It's more also that there might be multiple places.
I try to encompass it all. Like if I miss, I want it also there, but also I could get a good result there as well, or I might do that on purpose also. So if it's both, it make it big. But this is like one of the things. If I forget everything about this team, if I know nothing about them, like these are my defaults, and that is what Cade is doing. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I should have probably asked. But Kevin Brown actually sent me a picture of what Povich wrote, but I probably should have asked him, so I'm glad I didn't use it. But like we had an actual one of how Cade does it, and it looks like this one on the right. He puts notes on the side too, like I have on the left. But on the left though is on the right.
That's like a more specific to each batter.
Yeah. Well, basically, I just do this the day before or on the day.
Well, what I like about this also too is that like it's less hyper specific in some ways. Like you have a strengths column, for the hitters. That's just basically like, is he a low ball hitter? Is he a high ball hitter?
Nitro zone, like generally all pitch types, this is where they hit the hardest. So if I can make better decisions, if I forget everything, I need to remember at least where I can avoid a homer, because that's the thing that killed me all the time. So I was always just like, I'll be okay if I don't give up homers.
Yeah, because your plan for Moustakas here on the left, it does have a circle at the bottom. I can't really read, but it must be change ups low.
Yeah.
And his strength is low, but it sort of reminds you, if you just remember, okay, Moustakas is a low ball hitter, like don't go fishing with the gyro slider low.
Yeah, don't just like pump him gyro sliders middle counts or something to try to get a strike that just drops right into that zone. That's the thing.
It seems like a bad one for that.
If you really look, and if you squint, viewer or listener, there's a bunch of like, sometimes I write little arrows off the circles too, like miss. It's here or miss in this direction.
With Phillips.
They might go with you.
No, who's at Phillips?
I have no idea. Was that
from a few years ago?
Was that now pitcher Phillips? Brett Phillips, maybe?
Oh, was Brett Phillips the Angels there? And you have a little arrow saying that if you throw the four seam high, miss high and away.
Yeah, he'll still go, like he still might swing. Like he'll go with you.
He had
so
a
like
big
this is like
zone. That's right. Yeah,
exactly. So like you see how like that right column matches kind of with the thing on the right, except I would just remove the things that were going to put me into their nitro zone for the most part, and then try to remember those. So like that's just kind of what. And I have a scouting report that this is just like an exercise. I could have just looked at the scouting report and tried to remember, but like this is just to kind of lock it into my head.
Well, people say that you remember things better if you write them down. That's why note taking in meetings is a thing. It's why people usually take notes. So, this is a process of sort of remembering really as much as anything, because I can't imagine that there's nothing on this that like a pitching coach couldn't give you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just how you visualize and see the data that helps you remember what it is. So at the end of the day, all of this crap that I wrote down, I just needed to remember maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 points on each guy. And then when I go into the game, I kind of know who's going to line up. So then I go revisit them real quick. Like that's how it works. So it seems like a lot, but in reality, you can shave off 80% of this right before you go into the game, and just refresh yourself. So that was kind of how how I operated, but I did revisit this thing 3, 4, or 5 times a series, so that was quite a bit of work. But this is just, it was all in the pursuit of just having 2 or 3 options in any given time at any given situation against any guy, so that I felt comfortable with my plan, so that I didn't make any mistakes just because I didn't know. Like, I'm going to not execute, but I wanted it only anytime I got beat, it was because they did something, because they're good, and I executed and they got me, or I just didn't execute it physically, because that just happens. So like those are the two. I just wanted to make sure those were only the 2 things happening ever.
Yeah. And for Povich, I think, there was the 10 strikeout game against Houston where, I think he probably felt pretty good about the process. Since it's been up and down, I'd really hoped that, the beginning of the Padres outing yesterday, I thought, this is going to make for a great segment. I can't quote any numbers that say that, this has made Cade Povich figure it out. But I do think this could be even more important for a starting pitcher than a reliever, because, more options at their disposal, maybe some notes for, what you do second and third time you see them, and stuff like that. So, it did sort of fall apart a little bit. He ended up with 5 innings and 4 earned runs. But I'm intrigued by him as a pitcher too, just because he's a lefty with, a 5-pitch mix, command of most of his pitches. None of his pitches is like, through the roof stuff wise, but the changeup is above average. Everything else is close to average. And so I think he's somebody that could pop next year with, like, a better understanding of how to plan, with this process he's undergoing right now. Just some luck stuff. I mean, right now he's giving up a big BABIP and he's not stranding runners like he should. 25% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate suggests that he could be at least league average. And then what if he brings the cutter back? What if he figures something out with that and has a 3 fastball mix? Then he could be a really wide mix guy with command. So I've got Cade Povich circled, and it's interesting. He's thrown to Samuel Basayo now instead of Adley Rutschman, and Adley Rutschman showed on that piece of research as a really good game caller. So I wonder how that interacts, like his game planning, and then we have the whole Fromber episode. It's like, I'm a little bit more intrigued now about the process. Another question came up on the Padres cast while I was listening. Jesse Agler on the radio cast takes a question from users every day. And I think because of the Fromber situation, somebody said, how often does a catcher shake off a pitcher now that the pitcher can call with the pitch com?
Well, the answer to that question should be never.
Right, because the pitcher
should be never, because Yadi Molina no longer catches, so we're not doing that. At the end of the day, the pitcher has to be confident in what he's throwing. I actually have some experience with this.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Like, yeah, why if you shake him off, then the pitcher's like, oh, so now this is a bad idea.
Well, if they're not on board, then it's not going to be as quality as it needs to be. Like, they throw the pitch, man. It's not your fault if they're wrong. So like, we need to not. Like, it is at the end of the day, they have to be making the decision, because that will serve.
That's what I said with the Fromber thing. Like, give Fromber a pitch com, dude. Like, give Fromber a pitch com. Then he could tell the guy what he wants to throw. Then the guy's never like.
Well, yeah, but that was interesting because it was clear. Okay, so it's clear he hit the wrong. This happened to me once. So he hit the wrong pitch. Framber was frustrated and was like, "Screw it, I'm just going to throw the fastball." Like, he's like, I didn't mean to say that. And they didn't have, because it takes like the things like fastball away. It's like a 2-second, it takes forever. So like, especially if they're calling spots,
he can tell that
spots sometimes.
Okay. So you believe the catcher when you say hit the wrong button?
No, I guarantee you doing this. He's like, oh, my bad. Like, let me, I didn't mean to push that. And Framber's like, they must have had.
So then Framber was mad, like, you called the wrong pitch.
But the thing is, Framber could have stepped off, but he was in the windup, which
he's already moving.
That and our brains are, when we're in the windup, there's nobody on base, and when you're in the windup, there's nobody on base. You can't step off. So this happened to me once when I had I had Perez behind the plate who had just joined us. He had no idea what I picked.
So nobody like what you're just conditioned to think
Perez.
if you're in the windup that you can't step off. That's just
Yeah,
sort of
that could have been what happened.
thinking.
He threw the pitch, and then he's like, why can't you just do the easy thing and tell me, like, when I shake, be quick, because it takes so long and I don't have time for this. And I had that same thing where I got so not only that, we couldn't do a mound visit either. So I was like, I hate this pitch con because it takes so long and you don't even know what I throw.
One thing that you might have a little bit in common with Fromber is like you talked about being emotional on the mound.
Exactly.
And Fromber,
I would never do that,
obviously,
because let's be very clear. He crossed him up on purpose, and it's blatantly. You're not going to convince any ex-player that was an accident. Even when you hit a guy on purpose, you act like it was an accident.
Right.
And he didn't act like it was an accident at all.
But there was apparently in the story there was some idea that he'd been coached to sort of walk off the mound and like refocus when something was going bad emotionally.
Yeah, but like if you accidentally
He's still a human being over there.
You give him like one of those like, hey bro, I know that I just crossed you up. He didn't acknowledge the catcher at all. And when you throw a fastball and cross the catcher up, you are and then don't react at all to the catcher, that tells me you don't really care what the catcher thinks, which means you might have done it on purpose. So that's not even like I think Kratz made a great point. He's like, even if it was on accident, man, I'd be mad at you for not acknowledging that you just crossed me up.
Yeah, right, totally. Yeah.
Because it is on both of us when we get crossed up, not just me. It's on both of us. So I was like, yeah, that sucks. But in the frustration side of things, I get it. I literally went on the anxiety IL after I blew up after this one, in the dugout or in the clubhouse, because the big thing was the pitch com. We were on the same page and we couldn't get on the same page because of the pitch clock. There wasn't enough time. Rules. We're 2 weeks in at that point too. So that I totally understand that. But if you're not on the same page, maybe crossing your catcher up probably isn't going to solve the problem of being on the same page. Young guys are young. Like, you need to tell them. And that's why I like, with nobody on base, if there's no one on second, I just went one sign and just chanced it, because I figured, we're pretty on top of this whole sign stealing thing. I think that people are too afraid to do it at least with the camera. So I'm just going to take the chance that. And then I told Shea Langoliers, I said, hey, we have one target and we're going to steal everything Jason Adam does. I'm going to throw to one target. So now we have one target. Every pitch is thrown off that target, and we're doing no signs. We're doing just one sign with nobody on base. We'll do the pitch com with guys on second. And it was dialed after that. I didn't care anymore. I was super fast, and I threw out a windup. Like, those were all the things that needed to happen in order for me to do that. But that's what I saw. I saw they were not on the same page. He's never caught him before. He was frustrated. And then he just gave up a grand slam to the Yankees of all teams. So it's like,
totally.
Like, I get the frustration, but you can't do that, obviously. I know we didn't want to talk about this, but like that's kind of what.
Well, I also wanted to point out for Povich, like, Povich is throwing to a rookie, and as much as we don't know how good of a catcher he is, he's not throwing to Rushman. So maybe what he's doing right now is pretty good, and then it's the noise that's being introduced is he's throwing to a rookie. So
then didn't he have the same? Didn't Dean Kramer have a little bit of a problem with him a couple starts ago too, where he was like, dude, what are you calling? What buttons are you pushing? He was like, I don't throw that pitch. He's like, oh, you don't throw that pitch. And he was like, did you call this? He goes, yeah. He goes, I don't throw that. And he's like, and he goes, you don't? He goes, no. As they're walking off. And I'm like, yeah, he's just like, dude, like, least you could do is know what pitches I throw. I'm starting pitcher. And I think it was like in the
maybe Visaya's not
and maybe he's just not like maybe he's just not super quick with it. And that's one thing though, is for catchers, when a new catcher comes in the clubhouse, like Manny Pena was a veteran, he was coming off the aisle. He literally went from pitcher to pitcher to pitcher. He's like, I'm probably not going to remember all this stuff, but like, let's get the first wave in my brain, and then I'll revisit everything later. But like, just information dump me. I'll hold on to as much as I can, and then I'll get it quicker. And just please. But you're a rookie. Like, if you're not, maybe he's not comfortable. Like,
and this was stuff that people said about Yainer Diaz, who was DHing that day, was that he wasn't great like that. And so,
it just takes, it's about getting on the same page. And with the PitchCom, believe it or not, it's harder to do it in real time. If you're messed up right away, it's really
because you have to wait for the whole voice to get
and you can't say another set until it's done saying it.
Yeah,
because I can imagine hitting two buttons on it. If they're like, it stops halfway and starts a new one, that's really confusing. So
actually, that's an argument. That's an argument for having the voice say something really short. So you could actually program it to just say 1.
You could just say this. You could say that. A lot of guys do
That'd be
the
funny.
spot.
You hear the sign instead of it saying fastball. Be like 1. Okay.
For a while, the A's, we had like 4-seam fastball up and away.
Oh God!
And I'm like, that took 5 seconds, and it was brand new. So I'm going to give everyone kind of just a little bit of grace period. Like we were like, oh, we have this and we have the pitch column. We got to do
you
all
got the
this
9
right
pocket,
now.
so you could actually say like 1, 3.
Exactly.
So
It would be
very.
You could literally be like 1, 3, the
Yeah.
same way that you do the other one, and it'd be easier.
Well,
but
I mean, I find this the also the idea of rookie catchers is a fascinating thing. This was a rookie catcher in that situation, and then rookies are right now like just a big kind of a source of noise, and it can be in a good way. So, we wanted to talk about the importance of rookies during the stretch run and the playoffs, and I just thought it'd be fun to really quickly kind of go through some of the historical greats. And some of them were just unquestioned greats that we got at the very beginning of their career that just blew through the postseason because nobody had seen them, blew through September in the postseason. I think the first one that comes to mind is Francisco Rodriguez, added to the roster super late. And then in 2002, just nobody had seen him. He just lights out, just absolutely a real big part of why the Angels won that World Series. But there's some other really good ones. Jeremy Pena, the only rookie position player to win World Series MVP. The Randy Arozarena 2020 almost 1,300 OPS run where he was breaking records. That was a rookie season. Buster Posey in 2010. Kyle Schwarber had 5 homers and a 1,300 OPS as a rookie. In Atlanta, I really remember Andrew Jones. I think he's still the youngest World Series home run hitter at 19 in 1996.
The same year Jeter too. Jeter was on the other side, and he was doing crazy stuff as a rookie.
Yeah, so that was a crazy series. But then even recently, we had Parker Meadows and Jackson Merrill last year. Evan Carter in the 2023 run. Cade Smith was big last year, even though they came up short. Robert Suarez in his rookie season. And then there's the funny ones where their legacy is a little bit clouded. They were great at that moment, but like Brandon Pfaadt in 2023, we all thought that was like the ascension of an ace. Ian Anderson was a great as a rookie eligible guy, 2 straight playoffs. And then Walker Buehler was pretty huge. So sometimes it's just sort of like a light shining
brightly.
Yeah, thank you. That's a new She Sells Seashores by the Seashore. For just a short amount of time, but it is interesting because these players haven't seen each other. Like Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong have not faced the Dodgers. The Dodgers haven't seen them. Whoever they might see in the playoffs, the Padres haven't seen them. And so you get this like, yeah, sure, I've done the scouting report or I've stepped in on the trajectory, but like nothing until you've actually seen them. So I wanted to highlight, I think that the Mets way is a big way in. What do you see happening with the Mets now? Because they've got McLean and Tong up. Now, Brandon Sproat is the big news that he's coming up. I think that they can clean that up in the short term with maybe just releasing a Chris Davinsky off the 40-man and demoting Hageman, which is one of their relievers. I think they can do no big moves just to sort of bring Sproat up because he has to be put on the 40 and the active. But once you bring up Sproat, you've got like all these guys that got you there with Minaya and Senga, and David Peterson. They're the guys who got you there. But then you have, Tong and McLean and Sproat and Tyler McGill coming up at some point. They have like 8 starting pitchers and like 3 relievers you trust. What are you doing with the Mets to maximize the novelty of these pitchers, maybe in the playoffs, to maximize their use, to award the veterans what they deserve? I mean, do Peterson, Minaya, and Holmes deserve to keep their spots because they haven't really done a lot to lose them? Like, how are you navigating the clubhouse with the veterans and the young guys and knowing you want to win? Like, what are you doing with the Mets staff right now?
I think it's tough. It's like that's a lot of moving pieces, at least for September, right? In the playoffs, it would come out to be, I would probably lean more towards, assuming that Manaea continues to improve, because I think he's getting a little bit better, at least command wise. His command was pretty spotty at the beginning, and he is getting a little bit better, and we're seeing shades of old Manaea. So if he gets closer there, if he gets another month in, he missed a lot of time this year. He would still be.
Are you giving him that month? And he still has he's kind of a 2-pitch guy. He could be a really good long reliever,
Possibly. So that's the thing. Who starts and who then is the David Peterson from the playoffs last year, right?
Yeah.
And does that matter at this point? Because at that point, you want to pick the guy that if they're going, that you let them go, and we don't want to mess that up before we get to the playoffs. So like McLean, for example, right now he's game one. Like right now,
it seems like that, and he seems like really has the demeanor too, right? Like he
does.
He seems really calm, even when he's walked 2 guys and there's no outs and guys on first and second. Like you don't see any sweat.
Yeah, you're gonna chance that over trying to go with the guy who has the experience, because even if you have experience, it's still the pressure is a lot and hard to deal with, especially if you're like, I don't have the stuff that I had last time, right? Like if that could be the dagger. You would want a guy who's confident in his stuff and then learn how to come up with a big moment. I would choose that guy. I would choose McLean. Tong's only thrown once, so he's a guy who I could definitely see just like them bringing in. He throws 3 or 4 innings coming in after and punches out 10. Like he's got that type of crazy, like elite, weird.
Like imagine you just you if you piggybacked him with Manaea, you just be like, one's right, one's left, one's extreme left from the third base side, one's
and then east west, one's like the most north south guy I've seen since Tim Lincecum. Like I did that math yesterday. And first start, the difference in movement between his curveball and his forcing fastball was 39 inches.
Wow.
That's over 3 feet. You always hear pitching ninja go, that's over 2 feet. This is over 3. Like that's 3.5 feet. So like that is nuts. And it's like, and he punched out 173 and 119 innings. Like that's the type that's going to play in the playoffs, but I don't know if he necessarily needs to start. So like, I think that guy, especially with innings too, he's thrown a good amount of innings. Not like he's getting there, but like you don't need him to start unless let's say the next 3 starts, he's just lights out. And then you're like, maybe.
But like then there's like Kodai Senga, who like has been great.
I think Senga should be one of your starters too, because I think that you have the wealth of guys, the bulk of guys who can throw multiple innings that come in right behind him. So you can afford for him to be off,
give up a run or 2, and then get him out in there. And then
I would say
pretty good.
It would be McLean. I would say,
but how do you get Kodai right? Because one of the rumors is he goes to the minors. Is that how you get him right? I don't know. You can boost your confidence by going to the minors and then pitching in the minors, right? And then and blowing everybody in the minors and coming back. But like, do you really boost your confidence? Because in the back of your head, there's somebody saying, well, these are just minor leaguers.
Yeah, I don't know if, especially with him, I don't know if like that's. I think that would maybe be more detrimental, because I've heard he's pretty set in his ways. He's a set in his ways type of guy. Like you can suggest things, but there's it's less than a coin flip.
I think I would just piggyback with him. You know what I'd want to do? I want to give him 3 innings clean, and then be like, hey, that was 3 innings clean, and we're trying to keep you fresh for the playoffs.
Yeah.
So here comes Tom.
Or just like, or shorten his leash. But I would say Kodai should be a guy who starts the game, who you're trying to get to be a starter, because you can bring in the young guy that has swing and miss stuff. Like you got a couple of those guys
and less like, oh, I have to be, in the minors, you piggyback, you come in the third, like you're not like, oh, well, I need to have my massage and then I need to go, with my bare feet out on the lawn. And then,
Exactly. Yes. You gotta do the full,
I'm not throwing shit on any actual one person. It's just, there are starters like that.
Yeah, they're very like, one thing is messed up, the whole world's gonna end. That's not a great way. I've been like that before. It's not bad. It's not the best. And then I would say David Peterson deserves a start. Like he's the starter. He should start. He earned it from last year. We saw what he can do, but like his stuff is his stuff wherever he throws. I think he'll be fine either way. That is the one that he deserves to start, but at the same time, like he has the track record of doing both really well. So they're like,
I think for me, I'm really intrigued. I'm really intrigued with my Manaea as like as a guy I can bring in for 2 innings, just because I 2 or 3 is a smaller arsenal for me. To me, he's like he has a fastball that's very good, and then sometimes the breaking ball is good off of that, but not always. So sometimes he's a one pitch guy, and I
Yeah.
bet you there are certain matchups where you're like, I don't want Manaea facing that guy.
Yeah, there is that, but I think there's an approach thing with Sean. In his career, relieving he's not been good at it at all. Like coming into a game, he's not the same guy. I think there are certain guys. I remember when I got moved to the pen in 15, I was told explicitly that Mike Pelfrey cannot pitch out of the bullpen.
Yeah,
like he just can't. He has to start. Like it's just who he is. It's how his routine works. He takes an hour to warm up. He has to, and he's just more effective that way. So it's either we have you, and then we have a guy who's literally never going to come into a game, or we have you out there who can be effective, and then him start in the effective way. Those were the options. So like and this is just my guess. This is a theory based on prior. I know it just was. He did not seem to like it at all in San Francisco. I know it's a different team, but he just really wanted to start. Some guys just really, really want to start. And they're better, and that's worth it, giving them that chance, because mentally the confidence goes through the roof, and then you're a much better chance of getting the best version of them. So I would say maybe he's one of those guys, but he's maybe the only guy on the team that's like that. So that might be doable.
Yeah, well, most places have them kind of going into a 6-man where most of these guys stay in the rotation. But I see that Fangraphs has already taken Kodai Senga out of the rotation. For whatever that is, but I think we're all guessing at this point, especially at the time of this recording. I also think it's really interesting to think about, like, you have a series at Philly coming up and a series of versus the Padres and versus the Cubs. Those are potential playoff competitors. Could you maybe use Kodai over Nolan McLean at Philadelphia so that Nolan McLean doesn't? He's already faced Philadelphia. That one's out. But Tong, could you hide Tong? Could you hide a pitcher? I see Tong not starting that Phillies thing. Could you make sure that Tong doesn't play in the Padres one either, so that, like, when Tong comes out, and this seems like a crazy idea, but I want to point out Cade Horton has not seen the Dodgers or the Padres this year, and then maybe that's just a trick of the schedule, and this is, maybe they didn't do it on purpose, but I think that's a real benefit for them. And I talked to Cade Horton recently. I just thought we could listen to him talk about his fastball, because it is pretty unique. It is the pitch with the least amount of wiggle. Him and Sonny Gray have the least amount of wiggle. Cade Horton has a little bit of arm side. Sonny Gray has a little bit of cut. They are the guys who have the straightest, most cut rightiest cutter, four seamers, whatever you want to call it. The Cubs are kind of into it. So I talked to Cade Horton really quickly about his fastball mix. And here's a clip from what we talked about. I'm here with Cubs rookie Cade Horton, who is killing it right now, and he's got a really interesting fastball. It's the cut ride fastball. Could you show us a little bit of your grip and sort of your intention and release on that?
Yeah, so I just go traditional four seam. Don't really try to do too much with it. I think, sometimes when I'm going the glove side, I tend to get around it, and it kicks it to cut more. But yeah, just traditional fastball, big supinator, so naturally it's going to cut more than run.
You have put some wrinkles on it this year. Curveball's getting harder. It's getting more depth. You also, the sinker. How new is the sinker, and how did you develop that, given that you have the supination bias? And
I needed to learn a sinker because guys were just, they were able to look away. So I needed something hard that runs into righties. So we got to this grip right here. Again, just thinking about throwing it like my fastball, and naturally the axis would kick on it. But yeah, I needed it that way to get guys off, my slider and fastball, and that kind of opens up that outer lane for me.
So, they seem to, as an organization, really like supinators. People who are on the sort of, as a righty, sort of the right side of the ball. And maybe that's because you can throw a good sinker. You can be a supinator that throws a good sinker. And so you have that ability. Then plus there's not that many pitches like this. There's not too many sort of cut ride guys in the big leagues. So, I think that he has a real chance of being super important for the Cubs throughout it. I don't know, like historically, when we look back, will you put him in the sort of Walker Buehler, bucket? Like, I don't know about his longevity at times because everything cuts. But, you bringing up Sonny Gray was like, oh, yeah, he does have some similarities to Sonny Gray. He can really spin the slider. He has this curveball, and he's dialed in with the cut ride. What do you think of Cade Horton's short-term playoff implications and maybe long-term career real quick?
I think he's going to play a big role. It's one of those things. Like, I think the same thing with Sonny Gray. Their fastballs are so unique that they stay unique, and then like Sonny's always been at the top of that list. And so if you're just not going to find that anywhere else, you just don't face a guy enough to get super used to that. And so that sometimes means it could be effective longer, even if they know it's coming. One interesting thing that Cade mentioned there, he's like, I'm a mega supinator. I cut the ball. But one thing he didn't mention, I don't know, it'd be interesting to know if this is something he's even really thought about, but he tucks his thumb way underneath there. So I hold the exact same grip, except my thumb was much, much more on the
Scherzer's a big
index finger side, and he was way under like this, and I was like over here. And that's why I got more run arm side, but I also was a heavy super. I probably have the same spin axis as him, except he is just the thumbs out of the way to keep it off of that, so you got more of the cutter spin.
I wonder if that's like a Cubs innovation. I mean, it's not a Cubs innovation to tuck the thumb. Like I said, Scherzer does it. A lot of guys have done it. It's usually been done by guys who want to get more ride.
Yeah, because they're too far one way or the other.
Yeah, because you're losing some to the sideways, right?
To the sideways, or even there's more friction there than there would be here. Like, it's more sitting instead of being clamped down, and I needed to grip the ball hard, so I kept it there, and I had the ride for whatever reason, so I was like, I don't need to do that. But he does have it tucked under there. So anyway, but he throws hard. He's got a good breaking ball. I like the sinker. It looks like it's got a tiny bit of seam shift going on, because that's kind of naturally what happens. If that is something that he develops and does, where he feels really comfortable just throwing it there and letting him running off the plate and just kind of staying on that side of the plate, then
I kind of think the curve and the sinker are pretty important for his long-term success, because fastball, slider, cutter, cut, fastball, and slider. I'm like, I mean, Steele has been doing it, but Steele also has a cut ride, so that's part of the cut.
Yeah, but Steele, after talking to him, he's like, I have one grip and I manipulate it. He's just got to feel that, like, he throws 5 pitches with 2 pitches is basically what he does. He just thinks different things, and it works.
And I don't get that same vibe from Cade Horton. He's a little bit more like, this is my pitch, this is my pitch.
Also, good luck, like, scouting report for Steele if he's out there like feeling pitches and they don't show up anywhere because they're not being labeled, right? So, like, that,
it's funny because Max Fried was a little bit like that, and then we just started labeling those pitches,
and now he's 7 pitches, and
right. A little bit easier. When he came up, we thought, oh, he's kind of a 2-pitch, 3-pitch guy, and then you're like, oh no, he's actually like an 8-pitch guy, and we just didn't separate the blobs well enough.
Shout out Mike Petriello to constantly have to figure out how to label these guys' pitches. He wakes up. He wakes in the middle of the night, having nightmares about that stuff.
Yeah, he does. I don't think we're going to get to the hitter side of this. We'll leave that, and maybe next week we'll get into how do you manage a bullpen. When it comes down to September and the postseason. I do want to throw Payton Tolle. I think is like Cade Horton in that he's got this interesting cutter, fastball, changeup mix from the left side and velo. I actually think, Tolle, I think he has the innings because he was at 80, 85 innings in college. So, that's a good number for college, I think. So 2 years of 85 innings in college plus 130 last year. I think Tolle has the innings to just go. And he's kind of the wild card in that rotation where, they've got some guys, but if he could just be an out of nowhere stud, that changes the complexion of that pitching staff and maybe their postseason chances. Of course, Roman Anthony went on the IL, and it's soreness in the oblique. If it's a strained oblique, as we find out, that's gonna put a cramper in things, and that might actually bring some juice to the American League wildcard race. But I kind of think Roman Anthony will be back, Tolle will be back, and the Red Sox will be really interestingly built on rookies in the same way that the Mets are. Like the Mets, a lot of how they go will depend on rookies because it's their pitching staff, and for the Red Sox, it's a lot of young position players. We've traditionally found that postseason experience doesn't actually mean that much in terms of when we run the numbers. But the kind of things that we're talking about with Povich and Basayo and stuff like that, that's going to happen less with veterans, so you just don't want them, like rookie mistakes happen because they're getting used to it. But maybe if they're making these rookie mistakes through September, they're not going to make them in October. So
Exactly.
I tend to think that there's like a crossroads here. Like rookies may make more mistakes. They haven't been around as long, but also the league hasn't seen them as much. So there's a benefit and like a detriment maybe to being a rookie in October.
Yeah.
It's not all just detriment. People tend to be like, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Well, they are major league quality people, and everyone's not like uniquely aware of all of their flaws yet. Like they haven't seen him pitch for like 10 years and figured out, oh, he likes to do this and this and this. So there could be some fun there, and maybe we'll get a new Francisco Rodriguez or a new Randy Arozarena. That story's yet to be told, but we have made it to the end of this episode. I don't think I screwed it up too badly. I have to say, join our Discord, like this video, subscribe, please. Everything that you do on that level is important to us. The Discord is pretty lively right now. We're discussing Framber's next deal right now in the Discord. And thank you to Trevor May. Thanks for everything you do for us, and thanks to the listeners. And this is where I just say thanks for listening. That's what I should say.